Welcome. In this video, we will go through the dxDAO staking interface. We'll cover how to become a dxDAO stakeholder and a few tricks to gain a little extra reputation. Remember that reputation is the currency of voting power for this DAO. You can see here that there's a link to the white paper, which I would super recommend checking out, as well as a written guide on how to get reputation with the Gnosis Safe wallet. There are some other resources down here as well. Also, throughout this walkthrough, keep in mind that reputation is not transferable. So make sure you're using the wallet address that you want your reputation to be associated with. So let's get started. The first thing we see here is the participation agreement. To participate in the dxDAO, you're required to read this. But in this video, we'll just scroll down to the bottom and read the disclaimer, which summarizes the most important legal considerations of the participation agreement. The dxDAO is an experiment in the field of decentralized governance structures, in which participation is entirely at your own risk. This agreement has legal consequences and releases, waives or limits our liability to you and your ability to bring future legal actions over your participation in the dxDAO. If a dispute cannot be resolved amicably within the dxDAO, all your claims arising or in connection with this agreement shall be settled in binding arbitration in accordance with the arbitration clause contained in this agreement. Entering into this agreement constitutes a waiver of your right, if any, to a trial by jury and participation in a class action lawsuit. This agreement is cryptographically hashed by every transaction you submit on the Ethereum blockchain, whether via this interface or by direct interaction with the respective smart contracts in the vote staking period, as defined in the agreement. And any such hash shall constitute conclusive evidence of your intent to be bound by this agreement, and you waive any right to claim otherwise or to argue against its admissibility or authenticity in any legal proceedings. So, now we'll check these boxes to show that we have read, understood, and accept this disclaimer, and all the terms contained in the participation agreement. Next, we'll move on to the interface proper. As we begin here, make sure that you are logged into your MetaMask or your Gnosis Safe wallet. We recommend using the Gnosis Safe, so that's what we're going to showcase here. Here you can see some of the important dates in the vote staking period. June 28th at noon GMT is when the vote staking period ends. This is an especially important day to remember. As we continue to scroll down on the page here, we come to the actual staking interface. Here we can see the 5 ways of earning reputation: locking Ether, locking other ERC20 tokens, registering Magnolia, bidding gen, and DAO storytelling. You can also see here the proportions in which reputation is distributed through each method. Locking ETH is probably the most straightforward way to gain reputation, but it's not necessarily the most rewarding. Remember that only 8% of all reputation is allocated to those who use this method. So how do you lock your ETH? It's pretty simple. You just write in here how much ETH you want to lock. So we'll do 0.01. And you write in here the duration that you want to lock that Ether for. And we'll do a super short duration here so we can take a look at the release process. So once we put in that information, we're good to go. And now we just have to confirm the transaction with either your Gnosis Safe or your MetaMask. The maximum time you can lock your tokens for is 30 days, independent from when you lock them. But you can effectively lock the same tokens twice if you make sure the first lock does not go beyond the vote staking period end date, which is shown here in this countdown. So if you release your tokens before this countdown, you can stake them again for up to 30 days. This is also true of other ERC20 tokens you can lock with the dxDAO, as we'll see in a second. Let's move on to the next method. Locking non-Ether tokens is similar to locking Ether. You can see all the tokens you're able to lock here. You can also see the tokens that you've already locked in this interface here. Also, keep in mind that new additions might be made to this list, as new tokens on the suggested whitelist are listed on the protocol and have sufficient liquidity to get a price feed from the Dutch X. The amount of reputation you get, whether you lock ETH or one of these other tokens, is determined by the USD amount of the locked token according to the Dutch X price feed. For now, we are going to lock 50 gen for 1 day. Before we move on to Magnolia, let's check in with our locked Ether to get a sense of how the release process works. First, we refresh here, and then this release button should become clickable. We sign a few more transactions, the ETH will be returned to the wallet it was deposited from. Now, let's move on to Magnolia. Half of all reputation allocation comes from registering Magnolia, which is the biggest share of any one method. How do you get Magnolia? You just have to trade whitelisted tokens on the DutchX. And for every 1 ETH worth of tokens you trade, you get 1 Magnolia or a fraction thereof. There's a link in the description of this video to a blog post that provides more details on exactly how to do this. Also, in order for your Magnolia registration to work properly, you have to make sure that you are connected to the same wallet address that is associated or will be associated with your Magnolia tokens. In addition, it's worth noting again that registering is different than locking. The Magnolia are merely counted. The Magnolia tokens are locked in the DutchX Magnolia contract by default and must be locked to be registered. Then, once they have been locked, the counting is done automatically for you during the last 24 hours of the vote staking period. So be sure to have the amount of Magnolia you want registered in your wallet during these final 24 hours for them to count toward your total reputation. You can also get reputation by bidding gen. Over the course of the vote staking period, there will be a total of 10 auctions, where 1% of total reputation is allocated in each of these auctions. You can see the remaining duration of the active auction here. For this example, let's bid 10 gen. So a few more confirmations here. You can participate in as many gen auctions as you like. Then, at the end of the vote staking period, you will be awarded reputation according to the amount of gen tokens you bid in an auction relative to the amount of total gen tokens also bid in that same auction. So if you bid 10 gen in an auction where a total of 100 gen is bid, you will get 10% of the reputation for that auction. In this case, that would be 0.1% of all reputation. It's important to note that this is the only category where you won't receive your tokens back. Instead, gen bid in these auctions directly contributes to the dxDAO governance subsidy. You buy voting power and pay with gen. The last method is called DAO storytelling. Just how this last sliver of reputation will be allocated will be determined by the DAO itself once the governance phase has begun. It is suggested here that this reputation will be allocated to those who spread the word to their friends about the dxDAO. But the DAO will have the final say in this matter. So that's basically it. Remember that once the dxDAO vote staking period ends, the total amount of reputation or voting power you've earned through all these methods will be assigned to the wallet address you used to participate during the vote staking period, which again ends on June 28th at noon GMT. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can.